Hello and welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm John Bachman. Joining us right now on the phone from Washington, D.C. is Congressman Tom Price. He represents a beautiful piece of land called the 6th District of Georgia, also my hometown. Congressman Price, thanks for being with us.
Hey, John, thanks so much. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you as well. Congress is back in session, and there is some word now that things might be pushing ahead on the Farm Bill. This has been held up for quite a while, and a lot of the contention has been over the SNAP program, the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, also known as food stamps. House Republicans had initially wanted $40 billion in cuts to this program, but there are now reports that there's been a compromise made in both the House and the Senate Agriculture Committees, and we're looking at $9 billion in cuts. Congressman, are you happy with that amount of money being cut from the program?
Well, I haven't seen the particulars of any agreement if it has been reached at this point, but I think it's important to put it in context. In 2005, we spent as a nation about $28 billion on food stamps, on food assistance for those who were in need. This past year, we spent $81 billion, up from $28 billion just a few short years ago. What that tells me is that one, we haven't done enough to get folks back to work so that they're able to find jobs that are productive for them. But we also have a program that is making more and more individuals reliant and dependent upon the federal government. I'm not sure it's an absolute number that's necessary, but a reform of the program that incentivizes individuals to realize their dreams as opposed to become dependent on the government is what's necessary. And if we aren't moving in that direction, then I'd be hard-pressed to support it.
And what specifically would be those types of things you're talking about here, and aside from the number, the things that are going to help these folks get back to work?
Well, when you have able-bodied individuals who are receiving assistance from hardworking taxpayers, and they are making no effort whatsoever to return to the workforce, there are reports that we have that there are significant numbers of folks that are just living off the largesse and the compassion of fellow Americans. We are a compassionate nation. We want to help anybody who is truly in need. But the fact is that there are many who believe that there's a greater incentive not to participate in the workforce and to utilize all of the kind of services that the federal government, through hardworking taxpayers, provides so generously, as opposed to pulling their full share and their weight and participating in the workforce in a positive way. So those are the kinds of things that I think would need to be addressed if we're going to move the program in the direction that it ought to move, which is fundamental positive reform.
All right, let's pivot from those issues, because there has been a lot of talk so far in this new year about things like food stamps and unemployment benefits and things of that nature. But I know you want to talk about health care and your Empowering Patients First Act. This is something that you have continually pushed in the House, and you reintroduced it again, and a lot of folks have held this out there as the GOP alternative to Obamacare. How's it going so far in the House in this year? Are you getting more people on board with your plan?
Oh, absolutely. The fundamental problem remains that the president's law, the Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act law, is making more individuals uninsured as opposed to insured. The numbers that we believe to be accurate at this point are that about 5 to 6 million individuals have lost their health coverage because of the law, and about 2 million people have signed up, most of those having been put into the Medicaid program. That's not a great track record, so the predictions that we had that the program would fail miserably are indeed coming to pass, which is very troubling and sad for me as a former practicing physician, because real people are getting hurt with this law. Now, that doesn't mean that the previous status quo is just fine, because it isn't. There are positive reforms. H.R. 2300 would, if those changes were put in place, those positive reforms were put in place, would get virtually every single American covered with insurance coverage that they want, not that the government forces them to buy, would solve the insurance challenges of portability and pre-existing illness without putting Washington in charge, and would save hundreds of billions of dollars through ending the practice of defensive medicine. So you can solve these challenges, again, without putting Washington in charge of your health care. And nobody wants anybody other than patients and families and doctors to be making medical decisions, and that's what we ought to have, not what we have right now.
And while your plan does seem to be gaining some traction, there are still some other GOP alternatives out there as well. The Republican Study Committee is pushing a plan of their own, and one of your colleagues from the Georgia delegation, Republican Paul Brown, has also put out his plan as well. How close are we to getting all these plans merged into one? Maybe that's not the right description here, but one plan that everyone in the entire party backs.
Well, I think we're moving in that direction. The fact is we have over 150 pieces of health care legislation that have been introduced on the Republican side in the House of Representatives, all to address certain challenges or problems that we see in the current system, and especially with Obamacare. I'm heartened because the leadership has agreed that yes, indeed, we do need an alternative that we can put forward. The work that we'll be doing in these first 2 or 3 months of this year, I think, will center around trying to find where those common denominators are in those 150 plus pieces of legislation, so that we can have a piece of legislation that again would move us in the direction of patient-centered healthcare, where patients and families and doctors are making medical decisions, not Washington, D.C.
Now, is this going to be the kind of thing where you get all the players around a table, whether it be actual members of Congress or their staffers or aides, to kind of hash this out in like a war room situation, and you come out of the room with one comprehensive plan?
Well, I think it's more a collegial process and activity where getting the individuals who want to be engaged in proposing a positive solution for the conference together, and saying, what do you think are the 70, 80 percenters? What do 80% plus of the American people agree ought to be part of a healthcare reform bill, healthcare reform package? And things like some lawsuit abuse reform, some med mal reform, the opportunity to purchase across state lines, equalizing the tax treatment for the purchase of health coverage for individuals, expansion of HSAs, those kinds of things that allow more people to get covered, bring prices down, bring the cost of health coverage down, and do so in a way that respects, again, patients and families and doctors, not putting Washington, D.C. or insurance companies in charge.
All right, we'll look for more movement on that in the coming months. Congressman Tom Price of Georgia, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, John. Take care.
And thanks for watching Newsmax TV.